All right, the House narrowly passing a budget that clears the way for tax reform. Senator Marco Rubio reacting to all that just a few moments ago. Senator, welcome. Were you surprised by the closeness of this House vote on the Senate budget, 216 to 212? That doesn't leave a whole lot of wiggle room.
Yeah, I didn't follow. I mean, I know that the vote was just a few minutes ago, and so I haven't seen the vote tally on it. It passed. That's the good news.
Right.
We'll have to see why people voted against it. Some people are arguing it grows the debt. But here's what's interesting to me. Number one, it doesn't, because the economy is going to grow when you do this, and that's going to more than pay for it, if you want to use that term, a lot of what these people are pointing to. But the other thing is, if there was $1.7 trillion over 10 years, and we said let's raise $1.7 trillion in taxes or borrow $1.7 trillion and use it for infrastructure spending, the Democrats would all support it. They'd love it. But we're saying instead, let's give it to people, give it back to them and their employers so they can invest it and grow the economy. Now all of a sudden they're debt hawks. So it's really kind of disingenuous, but we're going to get it done. We're just going to keep moving forward, keep our head down, and keep our eye on the target here, which is passing tax reform. Senator,
most of the 20 Republicans who opted not to vote for this came from these high-tax states like New York, New Jersey, that would be most affected, or they argue their constituents would be most affected if the deduction for state local taxes were removed. Is it your sense that that provision will be in the final tax package? Should it be? What do you think?
Well, that's what they're going to work through on the committees. It's not a reason to vote against the budget. The budget is just the vehicle that's being used for tax reform. That might be a reason for them to come out against tax reform or try to change the details of tax reform, but that shouldn't be a reason to vote against the budget. So again, that's one. Look, there's going to be real committee hearings here in front of the public, and there's going to be debate, and there are going to be votes, and we're going to get to a place we need to get to. But we got to get it done. I mean, there's no alternative, and you cannot let sort of the enemy be the perfect, the perfect be the enemy of the good here. We've got to do tax reform.
You know, one of the things you as espoused with Senator Mike Lee is this idea to significantly up the child tax credit from $500 to $2,000. But what struck me with that, and maybe I misread it, Senator, would that apply to families as well who don't pay any federal taxes at this point, federal income taxes?
I want it to apply towards payroll tax, and here's why. Number one, the family is the most important institution in society, and parenting is the most important job any of us will do. And number two, something that Mike Lee talks about and does very well, there's a parent penalty. So all of us, when we retire, we want Social Security, we want Medicare. Who pays for that? Today's workers pay for today's retirees. So when I retire, tomorrow's workers will be paying for my Medicare and Social Security. If I have 4 children and someone has no children and we both retire, I just spent basically $250,000 per child to raise 4 taxpayers that are going to pay for your retirement, and you have no children. So the tax code should account for that. Now, the $2,000 per child doesn't even come close to making up for that gap, but it most certainly accounts for the increase. You know, it most certainly is a way to help families move ahead. And by the way, if we don't do the child tax credit and we don't make it refundable, then you're actually going to see some middle-class families get tax increases, and the president's not going to sign that, and people aren't going to support a middle-class tax increase. It won't pass. So
do you think that it opens up with the very best of intentions, Senator, but a slippery slope here where we end up giving tax breaks to those who don't necessarily? You're quite right. They pay FICA and related taxes, but they are not paying federal income taxes. So now we're in a battle to provide benefits to those who aren't kicking in for federal income taxes.
Well, first of all, when you work and they take that money out of your paycheck, it doesn't matter if it's income tax or FICA, it's less money. That's number one. It's a tax to the federal government, just in a different bucket. Number two, hopefully the growth in the economy, which is the other part, the big part of this tax reform, is going to move people into income brackets over time that they're going to actually be making more, and they will be. Not because the rates are higher, but they will be in those brackets that are paying income tax. And so, again, at a lower rate, because we're going to do that as well. That's the second part. And the third part is you don't get it unless you're working. You got to be working. It's a pro-work endeavor here. It's certainly better for families and for our country than to stay home and be eligible to collect government benefits at an amount equal or greater than the tax credit.
If this credit weren't included, though, Senator, would you be a no vote on the tax package?
I think if this credit wasn't included and it wasn't refundable and it raised taxes on middle-class families, the president wouldn't sign it. So it's a non-starter. We have to do it. We will do it.
Because it's not in there now.
Well, it's in the framework. Obviously, there is no bill because the details are going to get worked on now, and that's the way it should be.
So next week when we get the details, it will be in that, you're told?
It's either going to be there or it's going to be there at the end, but it'll be there because the president, I believe, will not sign it. The president is not going to sign a tax increase, especially on working families. Of that, I'm confident.
How is your relationship with the president? So the reason why I ask, and you've addressed it with reporters, the dust-ups he's had with Senators Flake and Corker. You said, I believe it was yesterday, I hope I got the date right, the Republican Party is going through a moment of realignment internally, an internal debate about what the party is going to be about and what it's going to represent in the years to come. Are you saying that those senators are the old party and Donald Trump is the new? What are you saying?
No, I'm saying that that's what everyone's going through. The rest of that statement was, so is the Democratic Party, so is the media and academia and virtually every institution in our society. The world has changed, the economy has changed. It's challenged all of us to re-examine what the role of our institutions are and what the right way forward is.
Well, Senator Flake seems to not like the change in that direction, that the president is debasing the party and the nation. Do you agree with that?
But you know what? Look, everyone's going to express themselves. Jeff Flake is a friend of mine and someone I admire. We agree on a lot of things. We disagree on a few. That's the way the world is. The same is true with the president. You ask about my relationship, it's pretty straightforward. If I agree with him, I'm going to support him. If I disagree with him, I'm going to tell him and try to change his mind. And if he still does something I don't agree with, I'm going to say it. But he was elected president. I'm going to work with him for the good of our country. And we're going to try to get good things done. And in the end, I try to focus almost all of my time on helping the people watching this, not the people covering this. I know that for many, the sort of daily back and forth is interesting, and everyone has a right to do it, and some of it's very valid stuff that's being talked about. But I choose to spend the majority of my time trying to get tax reform done, and when we got the VA reforms passed, and strengthening our military, and helping pediatric cancer issues, and helping Florida recover from a hurricane.
So you think this tit for tat, even on the president's part, is counterproductive?
I think it just wastes a lot of time on things that aren't relevant to what we should be working here on. That's what I believe. But everybody's going to do what they're going to do. I can't control what other people do. I can only control what I do. And what I do is try to do anyways is kind of focus on what you people have sent me up here to do, and that is make the country and their lives better.
Senator, there's a lot of back and forth on the legitimacy of this growing scandal around Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama regarding the so-called Uranium One issue, and whether the Russians were able to curry favor with the Obama administration, and more in the role of Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State benefited the Clinton Initiative, the Clinton Foundation. Do you think she had to have been aware of a lot of these details she says she was unaware of?
I don't know, and that's why I think it's probably within the scope of Mueller's special prosecutor investigation on what role that could have had in the elections. I believe that's within their scope, and they should look at it. That should be investigated.
Do you think
anything
he
like
is
that
and
is
he will?
concerning?
And if he
I don't know. I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think if he doesn't look at it, he better have a good reason why they didn't look at it. But again, they're called independent for a reason. They don't coordinate with us. They don't tell us what they're looking at, and they're not tell us what they're going to work on. But I believe it should be. It's a legitimate issue to focus on, and I suffice it to say, if that was us, or that was about the Trump administration, there'd be a tremendous amount of coverage on it right now in some of the other networks. So just kind of seeing it as I see it there.
Quickly, sir, on that same issue, a number of Democrats has said there's no equating these latest charges with Donald Trump Jr. meeting with Russians for a meal and discussing dirt on his opponent. Republicans argue, well, that's essentially what is arguing here. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know who said that. I don't know, a deal to purchase radioactive material and in exchange for cash and other things, I think is a little bit more relevant in my view. That doesn't make anything else irrelevant, but I think that's a pretty big deal. Certainly more important than opposition research in a campaign, in my view.
Senator, this tax package, the timeline seems to be since the House went ahead and voted on the Senate budget, that saved some days to get this done. Are you confident this will get done by the end of the year?
I am. It's not going to be easy. It shouldn't be easy. Tax reform is big and it's important, and so it should be hard, and it should be debated, and it should be well understood, and we don't want any unintended consequences. But I'm confident that we can get it done because I just can't imagine not getting it done. Like, what would that mean to our economy? What would that mean? Why are we here? Like, why would you elect people to the House, majorities in the House and Senate and the White House who support tax reform, and then they can't do tax reform? I think people have a reason to ask, well, then what's the point? So I just can't imagine not doing it. I think it would really hurt our economy and confidence. But I think it would be devastating politically as well. And I imagine most people around here understand that too.
And in the end, the two things that have been kicked around, like the deduction for state local taxes, the deductions for 401k contributions, are you opposed to either, both being played
Yeah,
with?
I don't think those are just somebody's out there talking about what are the options, what are the things that you could go after, and they just start floating these to see what the reaction to them are. In the end, I want to see tax reform pass, and to do that, we're going to have to make some difficult and unpopular decisions. I have no idea. The president's already said he doesn't want the 401k thing. Maybe the House will produce something different that has it in there, but in the end, that's going to all be debated through. But you know, there's going to be things in there that people don't like. I don't think it'll be the 401k provision, but that's what the debate will be about. But in the end, not doing anything is not an option. So there is no way this tax reform is going to have everything I want. Okay, it's not. But the question is, does it make things better or does it make things worse? And if it makes things better, I'm going to be for it.
Senator Marco Rubio, very good seeing you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me back.